Which is kind of what I thought. Okay. Wow, right? 4 o'clock. You ready? Ready to go? All right, I'm going to call the regular meeting of the Carmel-by-the-Sea Planning Commission to order. Can we have roll call, please?
Commissioner Allen?
Here.
Commissioner Delves?
Here.
Commissioner Karapetkov?
Here.
Commissioner Locke?
Here.
Chair LePage?
Here. I want to welcome all of you today. Got some great weather out there.
Yeah, right. For a slug.
Okay. First item on our agenda are there any announcements from any staff or commissioners? No announcements. Okay. And actually, we have our first item is the public appearances. So under the Brown Act, public comments for matters on the agenda must relate to that agenda item, and public comments for matters not on agenda must relate to the subject matter jurisdiction of this legislative body. Hateful, violent, and threatening speech is impermissible. Impermissible public comment as it disrupts the conduct of the public meeting. This is a warning that a member of the public attending this meeting remotely violates the Brown Act by failing to comply with these requirements of the Brown Act meeting, and that speaker will be muted. So, having said that, is there anyone here today who would like to speak to the Planning Commission about any items which are not on our agenda today, which are under our jurisdiction and matters of public municipal concern? I don't see anybody coming forward. Anybody online with their hand up?
There's no one online.
Okay, all right, we'll move on to the consent agenda. Matters on the consent agenda are considered to be routine in nature and don't require any discussions, but any members of the public may request any item be pulled for further discussion, or members of the commission may also request that items be pulled for further discussion. So we have 3 items on the consent agenda. Item number 1 is the annual general plan and housing element progress report for 2023. Item number 2 is the design study DS 24074. This is the Schneider project. This is consideration of a final design study and associated coastal development permit for the demolition of a 170 square foot detached garage and the expansion of an existing 940 square foot single family residence with a 136 square foot second story addition inclusive of an attached garage, resulting in a new 2,182 square foot residence, and it's located on the southwest corner of Mission Street and 12th Avenue in the R1 district. And the item number 3 in the consent agenda is a design study DS 22191 Newt. This is consideration of the final design study, associated coastal development permit for the demolition of more than 50% of the exterior walls of a single-story residence and the construction of a new 2-story residence located on the northwest corner of Carpenter Street and 4th Avenue in the R1 district. So is there anyone from the public that wants any of these items pulled for further discussion? No one online?
No one online.
Any of the commissioners?
I have a comment.
Okay. Which item?
On item number 3, the Newt project, we received correspondence from Dr. Mabry, who lives on Guadalupe, and it had to do with traffic and parking on Carpenter Street during construction, because there's a hill to the north of the project site, and people come over the hill quickly and you can't see when you're turning from 4th Avenue onto Carpenter. And I thought that was a very pertinent notification to us, and I hope that the applicant will please do everything they can not to have contractors park along Carpenter right there. I use that intersection regularly, and so I know how dangerous it can be. But I just wanted to point that out. Otherwise, I'd move approval.
Okay.
I'd like to pull number 1, I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
No,
item number 1, we'll pull that. You have some questions?
Yeah.
And then Chair LePage, I need to remind you that I need to recuse myself.
Oh, you need just
from-
right. Commissioner Allen has to recuse herself from item number 3.
So do we need 2 motions because?
Yes, so,
Yeah, move approval of items 2 and 3.
okay. Second that?
Second.
Okay, roll call. And you need, you can stay here.
Let's vote on item
Yeah.
2 and.
Okay. Can we have roll call?
But we,
We have a motion to accept
She
items
can't vote on.
number 2 and 3
we
on the
do-
consent agenda.
Do them separate?
Yeah.
Do you want to do them separate?
do you want
Yeah.
to, should we do item 2 to vote and then
Yes.
recuse her and then do item 3?
Yep.
Yes, okay. Okay, so we're voting on item 2.
Correct.
Yeah, we're going to have, this is, so you're going to do, were you going to do the, I'm a little confused. What do we?
Let's vote on 2, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, we're just doing
we
a
have-
motion on 2?
Yes.
Motion by Commissioner Locke, second by Commissioner Delves.
For item number 2 only. Okay, roll call, please.
Okay. Commissioner Allen,
Yes.
Commissioner Delves,
Yes.
Commissioner Karapetkov,
Yes.
Commissioner Locke,
Yes.
Chair LePage.
Yes, motion is passed. Okay, now we will have the report on
Now
the,
Well,
motion.
we have a motion for item number 3 with the recusal. by
okay, with her,
Alan.
right, okay, all right, so we're going to.
Second.
All right, okay, we have roll call, please.
Commissioner Delves,
Yes.
Commissioner Karapetkov,
Yes.
Commissioner Locke,
Yes.
Chair LePage.
Yes, that motion is passed. All right, now we will deal with the annual general plan and housing element progress report.
So I asked for this one to be pulled. I've been talking to Marnie about this. I asked it to be pulled for 2 reasons. One is the recent approval of the 6th housing element by the City Council was kind of a big deal. It was a ton of effort on the part of staff. There were different views on this body about it, but nonetheless, has been approved. I think there's also quite a bit of, I'm hearing a lot of conversation about it, so I think the more we can shine a light on what this process is, the better. And I'm sure we've all had a chance to look at it. It's really an overwhelming report that these guys have to do every year to the Department of Housing and Community Development at the state level. And I just wanted to acknowledge that effort by staff. But secondly is one of the things we learned is that auxiliary dwelling units, while auxiliary dwelling units are no longer the purview of this body because the state took away our regulatory authority over ADUs, that's the dark side. The upside is that that same state government body has at least said, well, ADUs do at least count towards your regional housing number, your RHNA, your regional housing mandate of 346 units. Furthermore, they count towards low-income units in a 30-30-30 capacity for the 3 lowest categories of income. So that's the upside of ADUs. So I asked Marnie if she could really go back and make sure we've got the right numbers on ADUs, because I think that's a big deal going forward.
Well, thank you, Commissioner Delves. So as you have been hearing, we are entering into the 6th cycle for the housing element, which is an 8-year cycle. 2023 is the last reporting year for the 5th cycle. So what this annual report does is it captures all of the activity in 2023 and is sort of a closeout for our 5th cycle as we transition into the 6th cycle. This is an annual report. We've been kind of mentioning it throughout the housing element update process, This is something that we'll be doing every year. We'll bring it to the Planning Commission as well as to the City Council to review it before we submit it to the state. There was a link to this report in your packet. However, it was brought to my attention that the list of ADUs appeared a little bit short, and in fact it was. So our goal for this last year of the 5th cycle was to kind of go back and true up the numbers and make sure that we've captured all the new housing units that have actually been produced in the village. So this 5th cycle actually started in 2015, and again, it ends in 2023. So a revised table has been prepared, which is what we're showing you on the screen right now. This will be the version that goes to City Council, and it includes 72 accessory dwelling units over the 5th cycle planning period. So I'm happy to answer any other questions you might have on the report.
Questions for staff?
Nope, just wanted that out there. Thank you.
Okay. Is there anyone from the public that would like to make any comments? Please come forward.
If hypothetically we were able to bring our number of ADU units up the way the city of Woodside did, would that satisfy our housing component?
So the accessory dwelling units are part of our current housing allocation. We were only able to take credit for the number that we were able to demonstrate was produced since 2018, which was kind of a lower number. The state is also using certificates of occupancy, so ADUs that have actually completed construction as part of that count. So our initial projection is a little bit low, but we will get credit for all of them. And of these 72, all of the ones that were finalized in the latter half of 2023 will count towards our 6th cycle.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, are there any other comments from the public or questions regarding the housing element report? Any hands going up online? Yeah.
Yes, we have Tim and Nancy Toomey. You can unmute yourself now.
Yes, Marnie, could you clarify in the housing element, the 2023, I understand, is the start of officially with counting and everything, the official start of this cycle 6. Yet you've got in the cycle 5, 2023 as well. So where is the overlap? Is there double counting? Is there not double counting? Can you clarify that?
Yeah, so there is an overlap, and this is created by the state and how they set their planning timeframes. My understanding is that, so the annual reporting period is a calendar year reporting. My understanding is that the 6th cycle started July 1st, so we will get credit for the last 6 months of 2023 towards our 6th cycle RENA. But you are correct, there is some overlap there.
Okay, I don't see any other hands going up. Nobody in the chamber coming forward, so I'm going to close the public comments. Is there any more discussion from the commissioners? Okay, do I have a motion?
Oh, that's right, we need to do that. I move to approve item number 1 of the consent agenda.
A second.
Roll call, please.
Commissioner Allen?
Yes.
Commissioner Delves?
Yes.
Commissioner Karpetkov?
Yes.
Commissioner Locke?
Yes.
Chair LePage?
Yes, motion is passed. Okay, that moves us to next item, which is orders of business for the public hearings. We have 3 items on that tonight. The first item is an appeal. It's APP 23368, Gaia. This is consideration of an appeal of a Track 1 design study for a balcony and a deck addition to an existing upper floor at the front of the residence and the construction of a new awning roof located on Santa Rita Street, 4 southeast of Ocean Avenue in the R1 district. We have staff report, please.
Thank you, Chair. So in November of last year, staff approved a Track 1 design study for a balcony and deck addition to a existing upper floor, as previously described. The project also included window replacements as well as reduction of non-conforming site coverage. The project was initially submitted in November of 2022. In November 2023, story poles were installed. That occurred on November 16th. The staff approval followed on November 21st, and then on November 28th, a timely appeal was submitted by the southern neighbor, Christine Chin, citing privacy concerns of the proposed deck. Between the time of the appeal and today, the story poles have remained installed on site. The appellant and the applicant have met to discuss potentially mutually agreeable solutions and design alternatives in an effort to avoid an appeal hearing. However, they have been unable to come to an agreeable solution. Following those meetings, the project was initially scheduled for the April Planning Commission meeting, but then a continuance was requested by the appellant and the applicant, and then it has been re-agendized for this meeting. And then following the noticing for this hearing, staff did receive additional correspondence from the neighbor to the north, citing additional concerns about the project. So according to the appellant's appeal statement, the grounds for the appeal are as follows. The southwest section of the deck overlooks our front door, and we deem this to be an invasion of our privacy. Because of the proximity of the deck, anyone on that deck can see right through our house, causing security concerns. So the residential design guidelines, specifically design guideline 5.1, states organized functions on a site to preserve reasonable privacy for adjacent properties. And then we also have a design objective that states design should respect the privacy of neighbors. The placement of windows, doors, balconies, and decks should be sensitive to similar improvements on neighboring properties. As you can see on the east side of Santa Rita, there are a number of existing decks and balconies or similar features. Within the immediate vicinity, only the subject site, which is the one bound in the red box, and then the one which would be the property farthest south do not have a deck or balcony on the front of the property. So taking all this into consideration, staff is recommending denial of the appeal by Christine Chen and upholding the staff approval. Those findings for denial were outlined in the resolution. Staff does find the project to be consistent with the residential design guidelines and finds that reasonable privacy is preserved in accordance with the residential design guidelines. As an alternative, the applicant has prepared a design alternative for consideration by the Planning Commission. The applicant is prepared to speak to the specifics of the design alternative, but in summary, a portion of the deck has been cut back with additional landscaping included to create a buffer of sorts. And then as a second alternative, if the Planning Commission does find that the deck as proposed does result in an adverse privacy impact, the Planning Commission can provide direction to the applicant to include additional design modifications, such as changes to materials or changes to the size or footprint of the deck. This could be brought back for further consideration by the Planning Commission, or direction could be given to staff to prepare a revised resolution for adoption. So following publication and distribution of the public notice, the northern neighbor contacted staff regarding concerns about the project. However, no appeal was filed following the initial staff approval. neighbor correspondence was provided to the Planning Commission as late correspondence. However, there was no analysis in the staff report as it was received following publication of the staff report. And this was the neighbor we toured during the site visits yesterday. And attached, or on the slide, is just a summary of the recommendation and the alternatives, and that concludes my presentation. Happy to answer any questions.
Questions for staff?
No. I have a question. How
ahead.
wide is the deck in the front? Is it 3 or 4 feet?
I don't know off the top of my head. Perhaps the project applicant knows, but I could look into that for you.
It's not very wide. Yeah.
How wide is the deck?
It's about 4 feet.
Could you?
You have to please come up to the microphone to answer the questions. That way we can get it on the record.
Sure. Hi, good evening. The balcony, proposed balcony is about 4.5 feet, I believe.
Thank you.
So I'm Thomas Rettenvender, the architect of the project.
All right, thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, any further questions for staff? Okay, before I invite the applicant up, I just want to state that I allow 3 minutes for the public's comments and 5 minutes for the applicant, and I will grant additional time to the applicant to respond to any concerns that are expressed by the public. So at this time, I'd like to invite the applicant or the applicant's representative or architect to come forward and make their presentation to us. Oh, excuse me, I'm sorry. I'll invite the appellant. I'll invite the appellant.
Good afternoon, I'm Kurt Grazing, and we live at 5 Southeast Santa Rita, so we're the neighbor to the south. And as we stated, we have the privacy concerns as the having a wraparound deck that this looks directly onto our, not only our front porch, our front door, and a kitchen window where we have breakfast every morning. The security concerns that people will be able to see us coming and going, and they'll be able to look right into our living room, as you noticed yesterday. We're not opposed to the ADU at all. It's just the deck and the wraparound deck. You'd mentioned that there were other decks on our street, and there are. However, I don't believe that any of those are wraparound decks. They're all straightforward front windows, French doors going out onto their deck. As we mentioned, we did meet with the architect, and it was suggested that we change our roof line to help out with the sight lines from their deck, and also suggested that a potted plant be put in the corner of the deck so somebody wouldn't be able to get into the corner to be able to see through our front door. We feel that the project was approved because of the wanting to approve ADUs. However, it wasn't really considered at any time about the deck and how it affected our privacy and our security, that the project was considered as a whole rather than being the ADU and then the deck. And there was never, staff never came to our, to look at our property to see how we would be affected. Right now, if you went back, you would see that the fence is much higher than 6 feet. We're concerned that if that is trimmed back down to, it's probably 7.5 feet, if that was trimmed down to a 6-foot height, that this would be even more egregious than it is at this time. So we're very much concerned with the concept of the wrap-it around deck, if you would, that if a straight deck off of the front property, and then whether there was a frosted glass at the end of the deck, that this would alleviate the issue of the privacy, would also push this back so the sight line wouldn't be as forward as it is into coming. So there was a couple of suggestions that we had to alleviate the issues that we're facing. Thank you.
Are there any questions for the appellant? So you're suggesting what were you suggesting there at the end?
Oh, we were suggesting that instead of being a wraparound deck from the front door wrapping around the whole house, that the deck just be from their front going forward, rather than wrapping around the house. And then, if possible, glass here to protect our place. Not unlike how on Ocean, 1 block up from us on the north-hand side, there's a house that has the frosted glass to prevent their deck looking down onto their neighbors. So that has been approved before.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Did you have a question?
No, we're good.
Okay. Okay, are there members of the public that would like to come forward and address the Planning Commission?
Oh, sorry.
Good afternoon. My name is Thomas Hood, architect. Kurt's a client, a good friend, and he asked me to stop by his house last week and take a look at the proposed deck. I think it's a good-looking project. What I questioned was what the function of the wraparound portion was. If you have visitors coming to the house, they would go up the walkway, up the stairs to the front door. So this appears to be a deck that's much wider than 4 feet and really projects into what I call the privacy zone of the grazing residence next door. The idea of cutting the deck back to the corner of the building, I don't think it would be any significant loss of architectural content for the owners. If they use that for circulation, there are other means to get to the deck that faces west other than by the front door. So it doesn't really serve a essential function for the owners. If the deck were cut back so that it's just off the corner, that would afford more light to the ADU downstairs. It might affect site coverage. It would reduce the overall mass of the house. And from my experience, if an architect can design a house that has less mass or invisible, we'd all be rich. It's like build less, build better. So I stand behind what Kurt is suggesting and hope you will too. Thank you.
Thank you, Thomas. Okay, other members of the public, please come forward now.
Thank you, commissioners, for dropping by the house yesterday. I really am so grateful, and I'm so sorry that we missed our first notice that was definitely sent. I don't remember seeing it because there was a grave loss in our family at the time, but with now a little bit more bandwidth, I'm able to, my husband is on his way to the memorial service for his brother right now, but I'm able to convey the urgency with which we now recognize from the notice that the balcony was not included with the ADU, and I know many of the photographs were not shown regarding our property. With regard to our only living space for the family is the dining room area and the lower courtyard, which is directly hanging over. The proposed balcony on the front property of Bruce's house is directly overlooking our garden, our living space, our home, and additionally, it blocks the only views that we have of Point Lobos completely from any corner of our house. And additionally, if the proposed balcony is allowed to be there, from the interior of the home, the view will be a contiguous line of construction from the garage roof line to the balcony, therefore providing nothing but a barrier to our sense of any space. Our home is rather small to begin with. And I hate to do this, but I can read my bullet points, which were in the letter, which I hope you all were able to read. Would be a direct violation of the right to privacy, completely blocks the only view. I've already said all these things. But more importantly, this is the Section 5 of the Residential Planning Commission Handbook, which one of the things says that the applicants are strongly encouraged to consult with neighbors early in the design process. We were never consulted. We have no idea. And Bruce himself was apologizing for not communicating yesterday. He said we should communicate, and he said, I've never seen it from this side. I appreciate his honesty, but there is no way that this is in any way adhering to the Planning Commission's guidelines for not blocking a view, not blocking sun, not blocking privacy, not overlooking a garden. I have 2 grandsons, one who's about to be born and one who's just barely 2. They're going to be playing. They're going to be in the window. They're there all the time. We have Christmas and Thanksgiving there. This is something that I find is, he has ability to see. I hate to go against the grazings, honestly, but there is a balcony and plenty of outdoor living that's available to him. But if the front balcony is as proposed, it will be a great violation to our family's privacy and our ability to enjoy that sanctity of family gatherings. And I'm sorry if I'm appearing emotional, but I think that the city would also represent us in making their decisions. The staff should have come and also perhaps protected us as much as they are the person submitting the license, not to put any blame, but I would have loved to have known that it was possible that we all are taken into consideration before approval is given. It seems it's only way to keep us all as peaceful neighbors and wanting to communicate with one another, instead of finding in hindsight that something was done and I didn't know. We all have difficulties in our lives, but I think more communication prevents misunderstandings. And I don't think that my neighbor wants to hurt me. I don't think he wants to invade our privacy, but I just don't think he knew. And he didn't come over, and no one consulted us. So I appreciate your consideration, and thanks for listening. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. So anyone else from the public that would like to address the Planning Commission regarding this application? Appeal. Okay, anybody online?
I don't see any hands online.
Okay, I'm going to close the public comments, open it up to the commission for their comments. Commissioner Dells, your comments.
I think this balcony, this wraparound balcony, invades the privacy of both neighbors. So to the southern neighbor, the Grassings, I see a little bit of your concern when you're coming out your front door. I see a lot more of your concern from your kitchen window. And what this balcony would do, it would allow people to be sitting facing south, looking directly into your house. In general, when we approve any outdoor patio or balcony, we think very hard about what direction are the people looking, and are they looking into anybody's anything. And so I'm troubled with any of the south-facing balcony for those reasons. For the west-facing balcony, I do think that in its current form, it's a very large balcony. I think it does invade the privacy of the neighbor to the north. You have a lot of topography on those lots, and if I'm standing on the northwest section of that balcony, yeah, I'm looking right down into your northern neighbor's patio. But it really also does, she's right, that it's easy to even look into the front window, and it does take away a view. It's not a 10 out of a 10 view, but to you, to your neighbor it is. And our general rule is you can't get something by taking something away you can't get something by taking something away from your neighbor. And I think this deck is taking away something from the north neighbor. So my proposal would be that, in general, we deal with decks a lot here, and I'm a little, I think it's another matter of process, but that I think normally we should see decks as part of our process. So I'm not quite sure why we didn't. So as a solution, I think a smaller deck that is more or less the width of the proposed French doors, more than a Juliet balcony, but not as wide as the current one. Wide enough to perhaps, if the doors are going to open out, enough to open the doors out, but to eliminate the section on the north and the south where the privacy impact could be the most, and then I think any of the south-facing deck is unnecessary.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Karapetkov, would you like to make some comments?
I have nothing to add. I mean, this is clearly creates a problem, but I think the biggest problem is based on our visit yesterday is from the kitchen, right? When you, I think there are 2 or 3 windows in the kitchen that look exactly in that direction into the deck. So that would be not the west deck, but that would be the south, right? Yeah, the south deck, the big portion of the deck. I would agree with this proposal if it's possible to reduce the size of the balcony on the west side. It's only 4 feet wide, so it's not really designed for entertainment or sitting or basically anything. It's the only purpose of it is to kind of provide this connection between the living room and the outdoors, and that can be provided with a smaller balcony as well. And it doesn't need to be connected to the rest of the balcony. I agree with Rob on that one. As for the impact on the kitchen windows, there was no discussion about that, so I'm not willing to comment on this issue, but there will definitely be impact on that side too. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Locke?
Thanks. Yeah, I agree actually with Commissioner Delves. I think that the biggest impact is in that kitchen area and not necessarily the living room door. My concern about is the size on the south. And I think it also needs to be pointed out that the ADU is actually increasing the square footage to the west. And so the neighbor to the north, the concern about the view there, I'm not sure if that square footage was something that she's really aware of that is being added with the ADU. Because I don't think it's the deck necessarily that will have the biggest impact on their house other than looking in, but I think it's also going to put a solid place there between the garage and the house. Other than that, I think I do agree that you could set the west deck back short, or make it smaller by the French doors, and that becomes your usable space. The entry door is on the south side, so you have to address that. Perhaps a small porch as an entry porch would be another option there, but something that isn't looking directly into the neighbor's house.
You know, I had a quick question for staff based on your comments. So does the ADU extend under the deck that's projecting west?
No.
It just comes out. It just comes out into the what would be the
yeah, Sebastian, would you mind flipping?
the southwest corner. It extends beyond that.
There we go.
Yeah.
We got a picture.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, it does.
Just a little bit. So the ADU is the dark area, and then this outline right here, that's the deck that's cantilevered. So there is a pathway between the garage and the house, and then the deck is cantilevered.
Right, yeah, okay. Yeah, I wasn't sure if it was extending further to the north, but it's primarily located on the south there.
You can actually see it quite well in the applicant's rendering.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I see it there. Okay, thank you. I just wanted to get that clarified. Okay, okay, Commissioner Allen, your comments, please.
Yeah, so I agree with the other commissioners. I like the idea of reducing down that balcony and keeping it on the west elevation. And then just as a side note, in defense of the staff, sometimes it is difficult to understand people's views and what they see from their windows. And so I'm glad that this has come to the Planning Commission, and agree that sometimes these are better in this venue than if we just go with over the counter with the staff. So I agree, and I feel like we should reduce this down so that we're not encroaching on the neighbor's kitchen area.
Thank you. Okay, so it sounds like the commission is in favor of reducing the size of the deck and eliminating, reducing the size of the deck to the west and eliminating the deck that covers the south portion. So, so is my understanding what staff presented to us in terms of our options? Well, I called you in the public comments. You didn't choose to speak.
Wait a minute. I was reading. You said first the public and then the applicant.
You're not the applicant. You're the public. And it's, all right, please come forward, sir.
Okay. So you've already stated.
You as you know, I don't want to get the terminology wrong, but we have an appeal, so we have the appellate. So anyway, go ahead and make your comments.
So I'm just part of the public.
Just make your comments. You just make your comments.
Okay. Well, of course, I want the project as is to go forward. Changes are expensive. And I have a good plan for the ADU, which I'm trying to get my son to move in with me, which would be nice, and live in the ADU and have some separation from my life. As far as the deck is concerned, it's to try to best utilize that space, and it is an outdoor area. And there is an awning on top of that, which I had hoped to put in solar panels, so it also will generate more energy there. Now, that can probably be done, and now if the space to the south is reduced, that puts that whole thing, I don't know if I'll be able to do that in that awning there, yeah. So thank you. As far as privacy to my neighbor to the south, if you're concerned that people will actually sit there, then I could certainly install a bench on next to the railing so that people would be, if they sat there on those rare occasions that they would have their back to that way. As far as privacy is concerned, I note that in my house, in the dining room, that I can see into my north neighbor's kitchen perfectly well, and so I have installed a plastic applique, very low cost, so that I don't do that, and it's my consideration for them, and that's great. Certainly, the people to the south can install window coverings because all they can see essentially is their fence out of their kitchen window anyway. So I don't really understand why that is a privacy thing, and I don't understand how a front door is anything but a private area. I could not see into their living room unless the door happened to be open, which is a rare event. So I don't understand why that is. Now, for the people to the north, I think that they have some legitimate concerns with regard to view, but this has just come up recently, and I think that some modifications of that corner of the balcony could be made that would alleviate the problem. So, in other words, I think that you're overblowing this privacy concern. I'm not taking away anything from anybody. I'm enhancing the neighborhood. It'll increase the value of my house, the neighbor's house, everyone's house. I also am a person who likes to garden, and I have enhanced the garden. And I'm glad that the two neighbors that I have also like to garden, and we have a beautiful little strip of houses there. And I also plan to do a lot of gardening, and I hope to put plants on the deck in continuance with what I've done already in my house. So I believe that this will be a general improvement to everybody concerned. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Okay, is there anyone else in the public who would like to make any comments regarding this application? Come forward, please.
So, yeah, thank you. I was also a little confused. As applicants, I heard we were going to be given 5 minutes to speak, so I wasn't sure when that was going to happen. So thanks for accommodating us. Yes. So yeah, of course, I think it is very clear that the ADU on the lower floor, that's not being considered right now. It's just the roof deck and the balcony. So we have proposed some transparent balcony structure so that it would be see-through. Certainly for the neighbors to the north, they would be able to see through the guardrail. So that maybe that's something to take into consideration. And then, yeah, we did tour the Gracings, the neighbors to the south. We did tour their house, and we saw that that guardrail, the front corner of the guardrail, is relatively close to their house. Of course, the houses are already close together. And we did have this alternative proposal, and I just wanted to make sure that that was clear to you all, the commission. Evan, I don't know if you have that one plan view drawing of this design alternative. There is the rendering, and it shows how we would, especially that southwest corner, that I think is a particular concern. That's the view that we see from the kitchen window, the Gracing's kitchen window. We can kind of see the front corner of that, the guardrail. And so what we're proposing here is to kind of cut that off in a diagonal fashion, and then place a permanent planter there on that corner. So instead of seeing the transparent guardrail, the Gracings would basically be looking at some vegetation. Yeah, and in that plan view sketch that I'm not sure if we have that here today. The alternative was to also place a bench there so people would not be standing right up against the guardrail, but they would be removed from that area. So I calculated a good 6 feet from the corner of that guardrail, the southwest corner. So that would be the closest one could be standing to that corner because of the diagonal guardrail and the bench in front of the guardrail. So thereby eliminating kind of that view down into the neighbor's sort of entry area. So that was a proposal to reduce that area of concern, reduce the guardrail and the roof deck in that area.
Do we have a plan of that?
Yeah, I did email it. I don't know if Evan, you can pull it up. And it was shared. It was shared with the Gracings as well, and they were concerned that, if they were to allow that, then it could be replaced easily. Somebody could come along and change the guardrail, kind of fill in that corner after all. But my understanding is that would again require a design approval from the commission, since it is a change, a structural change to the design and the project. So it couldn't just be changed overnight without approvals. The plan view, it does kind of clearly kind of explain what we're proposing there to cut off the front corner.
So that's the front corner on the northwest corner?
The southwest corner?
Southwest corner.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think we could feasibly do that on the northwest corner as well, if that particular corner is the issue, that it might be blocked. It's not a very useful kind of floor area, deck area to use, that corner. So we could propose, it might kind of provide some symmetry. Here we are. Thanks, Evan.
Okay.
So here you see the front corner of the guardrail being cut back, and then you see the new bench that's also identified there. So, somebody might be sitting there, but they obviously be facing towards the house, not towards the Gracings. And that could be a permanent planter there that's vegetated.
Yeah, I have a question for you. How wide is that proposed deck over the ADU?
So, yeah, to the west, it is about 4.5 feet.
Is that, I'm sorry, depth or width?
Yeah,
Width.
both, actually. I'm curious about the larger deck area.
And then to the south, that portion, of course, covers the ADU addition down below. So, you know, we would have a structure there anyway, and that extends about 8 feet over the ADU.
And what's the length?
The length, let's see, I'm not sure dimensions. While Evan is looking for the dimensions, one thing to point out is it does, that wraparound deck, it does provide a means of egress, a second means of egress. In case of emergency, someone would be able to escape out the front of the house and out down the stairs. Maybe also to point out the neighbors, both the neighbors to the north and the south, they already have balconies. So our application, you know, we should be allowed similar improvements. I think that's one of the guidelines in the design guidelines.
So you're proposing a kind of a cover over that deck on the south?
Yes.
I mean, I see it there in the rendering elevation.
That's right. Yeah. That
And
corner.
what's that constructed of?
Well, that would be like a planter, a permanent planter, with the parapet would also be the walls of the planter.
So there's some posts going up. They're going to support some type of a roof, a sunshade of sorts.
No, it's a planter on the deck level, so it would basically disguise and cover. It would occupy that front corner of the deck, and then it would disguise the guardrail as well, there in that corner.
So I'm talking about the awning roof.
Oh, the awning roof?
So that is going to be for solar panel array.
That's right. And shading. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Special translucent one.
Could you, and then along that railing there, you're going to provide some sort, are you proposing some type of landscaping?
That's right. Yes. Yeah. In the plan view that Evan just opened up and the rendering, we can kind of see that proposal. Yeah. So if you look closely at that corner, there's the.
Yeah, I see the corner, but
Okay.
I'm just trying to see if there's. It just looks like, so you have a railing there across the south, and what that railing is constructed of glass panels, or what is it?
That's right. Yes.
So they're obscured glass panels, or clear, or what are they?
Yeah. Either one. Currently, we were thinking they would be clear.
And those would be 42 inches high?
Yes. Correct. Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, and in the maybe if you could bring up the plan view of that proposed kind of mitigation, that proposed design. So here you see, yeah, just in that corner, the front corner of the balcony would be the guardrail would be cut off and kind of run diagonally.
Right. I'm just trying to see what type of mitigation there is for privacy to the neighbor to the south.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, I think I understand what you're doing there. Do you have any other comments?
Let's see. There was the question with regard to the size of the dimensions of the deck. And
So I wasn't able to find a exact proposed dimension, but the existing recess area is about 21 feet 4 inches long. And then if we take a look at the proposed area, so that's from this point this corner here to this wall right here. So it's 21 feet 4 inches plus the additional, what was it, 4 feet for this additional area. So about 25 feet from here to here.
So it's 25 by 8?
Yeah, and like I say, that would be the roof of the ADU below. So that structure will be there already. I think now the only question is like the transparent guardrail that we're proposing. That's in question, I think.
Okay, are there any other questions for the architect? Other questions? Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
All right, one last call for any comments from the public, and then I'm going to close the public hearing. Any hands raised?
No, sir.
Okay, I'm going to close the public comments, and, do you have an additional comment?
I was just going to say, it's,
Why don't you come up to the microphone, please?
sorry, I agree that neighbors should have like to like, but as you noticed right there, that's over a 200 square foot addition that's not right onto our property, but that faces right on our property. We find that quite intrusive. So just
You're referring to the ADU?
No, to the
deck
area.
All right,
there.
okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I also ask one question?
Come up.
The measurements of the deck were like kind of 4 feet, but it looks like 6 feet. If I were to go measure and it doesn't add up to 4 feet, can I come back to you guys with an appeal or just a suggestion that it'd be nice to have exact measurements? Because it didn't look like 4 feet to me.
It's my understanding that the architect said it's 4.5 feet.
Well, he was saying 4 feet, kind of. He didn't give an exact measurement.
Well, I heard 4.5.
Ah, okay.
What's your
So 4
question?
feet, 6. Well, if I can go measure it and it comes back that it looks more like 6 or feet to me, is that something that I can come back to you with based on what the
Well, if
estimate was?
if plans were approved, if they don't build it to that, then that's something you would, notify the building department about.
Because I heard 4 feet, and this seems like a lot more than 4 feet. I haven't measured it,
Pardon?
and it just seemed vague. if
There wasn't a
the architect
dimension on it?
knows the exact measurements of the.
Anyway, we'll address that. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, I appreciate that.
Okay, I'm going to close the public hearing and bring it back to the commission. I don't know if we're making any progress on this. Here's the way I'm kind of thinking about this right at the moment. It seems like we've got impacts to the north and to the south. So it seems like if we bring the deck back from the northwest corner of the house, that's going to mitigate some of the impacts to the neighbor to the north. And then on the south, there's a structure being built there, so there could be some lattice applied or some glass or something else to mitigate the impacts to the neighbor to the south. And the neighbor to the south sounded like maybe they were amenable to that. In fact, they suggested it. So what I would recommend is we do that. We have a definite dimension set for how far the deck protrudes from the house to the west, how far we cut it back or how it's cut back from the northwest corner. I would suggest cutting it back just 4 feet, not put it on an angle from the corner, just bring it back. That way we've just removed that. And then on the deck to the south, I think if you raised up the glass railing to 60 inches, which is 5 feet, that would be adequate to provide a privacy barrier. So that's my suggestion. So what are your comments?
So just to react to it, Chair, I agree with for the west-facing deck, which affects the northern neighbor, that if we pulled the northern edge of that deck for 4 feet further south, I think that would be appropriate, and that deck must be limited to 4 feet in depth and width. This deck that is south-facing, on top of the ADU, it's a 200 square foot deck, and that's a very big space, And my concern is that that goes from being a deck, a simple let's go sit in the sun deck to almost a backyard. A barbecue, it could become a very active space. And it's a very active space that isn't there today and that is getting introduced onto the southern neighbor. And it's not just a little thing. I think it could be a big thing. And even if it's screened better, I think you're inviting a very active space and the things that come with a very active space. So I'm personally not inclined, I'm not supportive of it at all. But if you were gonna cut it back, I guess I would cut it, I would just say these are two separate decks. You've got a balcony off the front facing west, and then you can have a small piece next to the front door. That's something there if that's important. But
What if they just pull the deck back, make it 4 feet all around?
Instead of 8 feet.
that would be.
That way, it's usable, but it's not a deck that could become like an outdoor room.
I could get there. With the, well, and then there's still all the directions. The southwest corner of the deck is, that's still an area of concern from their front door. But also if the proposal is that all glass on that deck is frosted and 4 feet tall.
4 feet tall?
Facing south. Yeah, I could get there. I don't know. Let's see what others think.
Okay, do we have any other comments? Commissioner Karapetrov?
4 foot wide all the way around, but also coming back, coming 4 foot further south on the northwest corner.
Right, on the northwest corner.
Northwest, yeah.
And then 8 feet projecting all the way.
Okay, so
4 feet wide.
So my question for staff is, if we uphold the appeal, then basically one of your options was we uphold the appeal, but we give them direction how to redesign it. Is that correct?
That would be alternative number 2.
That's alternative number 2. Grant the appeal, provide direction to the applicant to revise the deck. Okay. So it sounds like we have direction. Do we have a motion?
I'll make it. I move to grant the appeal and provide direction to the applicant to revise the deck. Revisions to be bringing the northwest corner as proposed for 4 feet further south, and then the entire deck, starting from that point, wrapping around to the south and east to have I'll call it depth of no more than 4 feet.
To be to the west and south.
Yeah.
4 feet. Okay, so as I understand it, your motion, the motion would go ahead.
And that the glass barrier railing be provided 4 foot in height of frosted glass.
Okay.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion to grant the appeal and direction to the owner that the proposed deck shall be 4 feet from the northwest corner, and it shall extend no more than 4 feet from the residence to the west and to the south, and that the railing will be a obscure glass railing that will be 48 inches high.
I have one thought, though, we're proposing frosted glass, but some other solid material, I would leave that to an architect's discretion.
Okay, so we're not, it would be a material that would provide, that would not be visible through.
Yes,
Agree.
yeah.
Okay? All right.
Chair,
Any further discussion? Yes.
prior to roll call, can I clarify, is this something that you would like brought back to the commission?
What's the commission's feeling about that? I'm happy to have them work with staff, but I think we've given pretty specific direction. So, did you have a question?
Yes.
Please come forward.
Yeah, thank you. Just regarding the material of the guardrail, if the privacy concern is to the south, if that were frosted, but the guardrail, the glass to the facing west, where there is no privacy concern to the west, if that were clear, might that be a way to preserve the views from inside the applicant's living room and not
Yeah, I think that's reasonable and addresses the concerns to the neighbor to the north.
Yep.
So
Chair
would you-
LePage, I just have two questions that I
Sure.
want to clarify. So when we say that we're bringing the balcony down from the northwest side, that is going to actually unfortunately, we don't have dimensions, which is kind of an issue. But if we bring that in, it's going to go right in, like right at the door, or maybe even into the door.
The door's new, though.
The what?
The door is new.
Oh, so they
It's
so
not
they
there right
can
now.
adjust it. Gotcha. Okay. All right. So I just want to make sure of that. And then the other thing that I wanted to make sure of, even if you have an opaque material for the railing or the side, if you're standing, can't you still look into the kitchen?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure that I understood.
But you're back further now.
Okay. All right.
Yeah,
So that's southwest
Yeah,
corner.
it's further back and.
So that southwest corner isn't still an issue.
If it's 8 feet, if it's 4 feet further back.
Okay.
It should be.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay. Ready to go.
So I think we need to amend the,
Yeah, you need to amend the motion as far as the railing material.
and that so again, opaque or solid railing material, except for west facing, where clear is fine.
I agree, yes.
Okay, we have a motion. Any more discussion? All right, roll call, please.
Commissioner Allen?
Yes.
Commissioner Delves?
Yes?
Commissioner Karpetkov?
Yes.
Commissioner Locke?
Yes.
Chair LePage?
Yes, the motion is carried. Thank you, everyone. Computer keeps dropping the connection here. Okay, that brings us to item number 5 on the public hearings. This is a use permit. This is UP 24077 and a design review permit 24150. This is the Vin Kitchen, and it is to establish a new 1,596 square foot full-line restaurant with wine sales and ancillary use located on Dolores Street, due northwest of 6th Avenue in the commercial district. We have staff report, please.
Thank you, Chair. This project is located at Suvecino Court, located on Dolores, 2 northwest of 6th. The space was previously occupied by Bennett Sculpture Gallery and now is proposed to accommodate Vin Kitchen, a full-line restaurant with ancillary wine sales. The applicant is proposing 26 indoor seats, 5 of which will be located at a bar, and 13 outdoor seats in the courtyard. This aerial view shows the proposed Vin Kitchen site there on the right side of the screen. It's going to fill the south wing of this U-shaped structure, and then take note of the property to the west, which currently accommodates Cultura. This is a separate parcel, but it's under the same ownership as the proposed bin kitchen. I'm going to talk about seating to start, indoor seating specifically. So there is potential for the applicant to have up to 26 seats, as shown here on this floor plan. 26 seats inside, 5 of which are at the bar. And there is water credits available should they do a number of things. And we can come back and discuss the details, but in all, the story is that 26 seats are possible. And there is a condition of approval that the applicant obtain a water permit that accommodates the seating capacity prior to issuance of a building permit. And how we reach that 26 seat figure. So as I mentioned, the 2 properties are under the same ownership. This allows for transfer of water credits between the 2 properties. So the property currently accommodated by Cultura, there was no water permit ever issued for that space. So staff identified 114 seats as their baseline historic seating capacity. This is kind of an approach that you recently did with Anton and Michelle. So 114 is our baseline historic seating capacity, and then there was a subsequent use permit for Jack London's, later Cultura, which permitted 112 seats. So between 114 and 112, that leaves 2 kind of floating unused seats. And then the Jack London use permit specifies 96 indoor seats, 16 of which were moved outside. So the property owner may transfer those 2 extra floating seats over to Vin Kitchen and 16 seats from Cultura to Vin Kitchen to reach their proposed 26 indoor seats. The code does require analysis for exterior seating, which I'll get into next. The applicant provided this site plan with their materials, and this is the site plan that was included in your packet and described in the staff report. This shows the 13 seats, which is half the number of 26. As you know, you can put half of your inside seats outside. And this also shows the fire pits and lampposts. The site plan doesn't show that Cultura is actually using the fire pits as tables. And this is what the Cultura seating plan looks like. 6 tops around the fire pits and two tops in the middle. So staff has provided some measurements here, but all in all, we do recommend amending a condition of approval to specify reduced outdoor seating that meets accessibility and design standards. And so we do recommend reducing that outdoor seating from the proposed 13 seats down to 10 seats. Moving on to hours of operation, the applicant does propose to close at 10 Monday through Wednesday, and then 11 o'clock p.m. Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and 10 p.m. on Sunday. However, the staff recommendation is an 8 o'clock closure time. And this is because the code specifies that all uses in commercial districts located within 300 feet of the single-family zoning district have this interesting limitation where if the commercial use is estimated to generate more than 40 vehicle trips per day per 1,000 square feet of floor space, they are prohibited from operating after 8 p.m. And the Vin Kitchen space is located within 300 feet of the R1, specifically that west block face of Lincoln. And the proposed daily vehicle trips do exceed the 40. It's estimated at around 97 vehicle trips. Because of this, staff does recommend an 8 p.m. closure time. So there are several considerations for new full-line restaurants. One of which is that the sale of alcoholic beverages are subordinate to the primary use. And indeed, this is going to be a full-line restaurant with beer and wine table service, but not spirits. There is a separate bar area, and there will be a full-line kitchen serving an all-day menu. As you know, we don't allow drive-in, formula, or fast food establishments, and Vin Kitchen, it does not exhibit those characteristics. It's a casual bistro, and of note, the owner already currently operates Vin Wine Bar and Bottle Boutique in the Crossroads. However, that's a wine bar, not a restaurant, whereas Vin Kitchen will be a full-line restaurant with wine sales simply as an ancillary use. And as I mentioned, all foods from the menu will be available for purchase during the hours that you can purchase alcohol. So here we describe how the maximum seating capacity shall not exceed the standards in the building and fire codes or as approved by the Planning Commission. And there was no previous business with seats. So condition of approval 17 does specify that the seat count is subject to review by the building official and the building and fire codes. So the outdoor seating, as conditioned, should not take up more than 10% of the 8,000 square foot lot, nor 30% of the approximately 2,000 square foot courtyard. It is fully contained on private property and wouldn't interfere with car traffic, pedestrian traffic, or traffic through the courtyard. And then these aren't too applicable. The project does meet all of these requirements. It's not on Ocean Avenue, no outdoor cooking, etc. And then there's 3 considerations for all eating and drinking establishments, and they are that non-food merchandise be directly related to the restaurant use. So Vin Kitchen is proposing to sell non-food merchandise, specifically wine and wine accessories, and this non-food merchandise will be located in a 140 square foot hallway area, which comprises less than 10% of the building. So it does meet this requirement. There's a requirement that adequate facilities for on-site closed storage of trash is provided. And there is, in fact, space for this in the west alley behind the building. However, the applicant is currently proposing to use instead off-site trash storage in that adjacent property to the west in the parking garage beneath Cultura. So there is a condition of approval requiring either the applicant to construct closed trash storage on site or record an easement to that neighboring property or merge the lots. That's how they would meet this on-site storage requirement. Here's a photograph of that alley, and on the right is the proposed solution as proposed by the applicant currently. And then the third requirement is that there's a restroom, and that is met. So moving on to exterior modifications, there's really not too many, one of which is a roof vent. And here we're looking at the north elevation, but since the plans were submitted, the applicant is instead proposing to move the vent over to the south roof plane. So your packet showed a hood here on the north plane, but instead it is going to go on the south, or that's how it's proposed. And I'll just point out that south of Vin Kitchen, there are second story, there's a residential space. The other modifications include applying glass film on select window openings. The top image is the north elevation, bottom is the south elevation, and then lastly, pulling out the concrete and the sidewalk and matching it with the existing brick in the courtyard. The staff recommendation is to adopt the resolution with the conditions, and that concludes my presentation. Happy to answer any questions or go back to any slides.
Okay, questions for staff?
Catherine,
Yes.
with the vent on
Yes.
the roof, is there any sort of issue
Yes,
with
thank you. I actually
residents?
forgot to say they're shrouding it with a stucco cover. So here on this plan, it says the hood exhaust shrouding to match the stucco siding of the building.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Commissioner Dell, you have a question?
I did. So I thought I heard you say that you were asking them to do only 10 seats outdoors?
That would be my recommendation. They're proposing 13. However, when you look at where Cultura is located, so this shows the Cultura seats here. It doesn't show the proposed VIN seats. Sorry to switch back and forth on you, but here's the VIN seats, and you can see the fire tables there, but not the seats around them.
I think we noticed that yesterday. I just didn't see it as a condition. Did you?
In red on this slide. This is my request.
Sorry. Amendment number 10. Got it. Thank you.
And Catherine, do you know what the hours of operation are for Cultura?
Not off the top of my head. I do believe their use permit allows later hours.
They have later hours?
The use permit is attached. I can pull it up while we're discussing.
Yeah, I'm just curious if they, when their use permit was.
One of three.
Okay, thank you. Okay, all right. Any other questions for staff? Okay, thank you, Catherine. I'd like to invite the applicant to come up and make their presentation at this time.
Hi, everybody. Excited to finally be here. It's been a lot of months to get here, so happy to be standing in front of you. So quickly, just who we are, Rosalyn, my wife, and myself. We do own Vin Wine Bar and Bottle Boutique in the Crossroads, which is not a full-line restaurant. It's a tasting room and a bottle boutique. We've just renewed our lease over there as of last month for multi-year, so that business will continue. This is a completely different business. This is a full-line restaurant. Into Suvecino Court, we're excited to be there. We've talked to a lot of the neighbors. We had, spoke to everyone and handed out all of our notices and all that, and there's a lot of excitement about bringing foot traffic into the area and all that. We're very excited to be there. Our concept is more of a tapas-style all-day menu. We felt after moving down to Carmel in 2020, that this is what we were missing, right? The ability just to kind of get a good meal, a full meal all day long into the evening outside of standard hours, dessert service, things like that. So that's what we want to bring to the local establishment. We do have a big local following over in the Crossroads, but their demand has been, can you get into town? And obviously full-line restaurants the way that we're going to come to town. So we're super excited to be here for that. I'm happy to answer any questions on the menu, the business, or what have you. For the staff report, there are a few items that we'd like to discuss. We have some questions on that and some comments. So I will hit those first, and then there were a couple of things we wanted to talk about on design review. So the first thing is the water credits. This was a bit of a surprise to us. Unfortunately, staff only came to us with this on Monday of this week. Previously, we worked very hard with the water department in January and February to establish the water credits. And it was a long process, and I learned a lot, right? So, and actually it culminated in 5 or 6 phone calls, 2 site visits by the water department to check things. We actually didn't get all the credits that we thought we were gonna get, but they did agree, and we provided over 25 pages of documents to confirm the availability of the water credits that we need for 26 seats. We respectfully do not believe that the law is being accurately applied right now by staff, because what we understand is that water credits go with the site, and they belong to the owner of the site, not the use case. And they don't stick with the use case if the water credits aren't being used. So what we think the issue is that Carmel defines total seats, and you'll see it right here on our application. Vin Bar, 26 indoor seats, 13 outdoor seats, total seats, 39. That language has been used since the 70s on all your reports and into your use case reports by Carmel for the restaurant, specifically the restaurant on this property. And it is very clearly stated 114 interior seats, 112 interior, 96 interior, 16 outdoors. It's gone back and forth, which is fine, and the water department allows that. So what we found here, what we believe is that these water credits are available. They don't require an amendment to the use case, and they shouldn't require another permit fee and what have you. When Jack London took over and you gave them their first use case permit, that's when it moved from 114 to 96 interior seats. And so those 18 water credits go back to the site and really just become not seats, they just become water, right? 0.36 acre feet of water. And that's for the owners to then apply to whatever use case they want, which through our lease, our Suvecino Court owners are applying to our thing. So that's where we stand with the water credits. We believe they don't really need any other use case permit, and that the water department would be in agreement with us if they got the town's blessing. So that's where we are on the water credits. Can take any questions on that if you guys have them. All that is in the water department code 24 and 25 if we want to read through that. Operating hours, this was a little bit of a naivety on our part, quite frankly. We just looked around at the restaurants around our area and tried to match operating hours with them. So we were very surprised, again, to learn just a couple of weeks ago that this would potentially be an issue. And so, being so surprised, we just kind of went and got the, Carmel's dining guide, right? And went around and looked, and of the 59 restaurants in town, 8 of them serve only breakfast or lunch. So they close, early in the afternoon. Of the 51 remaining restaurants, 0 close at 8 p.m. So no restaurants in town have this rule applied to them. Of those 51 restaurants, it looks like about 20 of them fall within this R1, less than 300 feet from an R1 zone. Of those 20, 0 close at 8 p.m. Only 8 close at 9, 7 close at 10 p.m., and 5 close after 11 p.m. So 60% of all restaurants within this 300-foot zone close at 10 p.m. or later. So honestly, and the question about Cultura, yes, their use case allows them to stay open until 2 a.m. Other neighbors that are within the exact properties that you guys have mentioned, like the Pocket, they stay open until 10 p.m. So really our request is just to be able to operate a business like our neighbors are operating their business today and have been for years. It's super important for a business of our size with this few seats. Operating hours are how we have a sustainable business. And that's something, we talked about having a dessert service or even having dinner service that closes at 8, just doesn't make a restaurant a viable option. So we're asking for your help with that. I guess this is still sort of related to...
How much more time do you think you're going to need?
I need another 2 minutes.
Great.
Okay? Because, there's a couple of curveballs that were just thrown at us, like the reduction of exterior seats. That wasn't in the report on Friday?
No.
Right, so that's news to us sitting here today, that there will be a reduction of seats. So it's a pretty big courtyard, pretty sure we can move some seats around. So we'd first of all like the opportunity to try to move those seats. That's number one. Second of all, we model those seats exactly as how they're being used today. So as we all know, many restaurants are using more outdoor seats than they have rights to. And those exact spots that we showed are being used today by Cultura. And I think at the end of the year, you guys come up with your resolution on how we're going to deal with outdoor seats. But so those seats physically are next to tables that are being used on a regular weekend basis. That's anyone who goes to Cultura can see. But for traffic, the traffic report we feel is just completely out of line with our business. First of all, we're not a fast casual business, we're a full line restaurant. So we have to get the right engineering study applied for our number, right? That is 97.4 cars per 1,000 square foot. So for any restaurant in Carmel to meet your code of 40 cars or less per hour, that would have to be a 410 square foot maximum restaurant, which is kind of like a hot dog stand. So this just doesn't work. The other part of this is if it's 2 people per car and we're going to generate 155 car trips, that means we're going to hit 310 covers a day. Our average cover is about $65 per person, which means we'll be making $20,000 a day or $7.2 million a year on a 26-seat restaurant. I know there's some other restaurateurs in the audience who would love to come in and invest with us. And I'm a little jokey because I just think the number is that ridiculously out of whack for what our business is that it really can't be used to stop us from being able to operate at a normal time. So our estimation of what we're going to do is basically about 75 covers a day on average. But even if we went to our peak, our absolute peak, and filled every one of those 26 seats and give us 13 outdoor seats for every minute of every day, we would hit 182 covers a day. Divided by 2, it's 91 cars. The other thing about that car, the traffic report, is it doesn't account for walking traffic to the restaurant. So there's a lot of hotels, a lot of tourists. If we do 182 covers a day. If 70% drove their car, which we think is more than we will meet your requirements and be less traffic than we would to be open until 9 p.m. So we really ask that we take a look at that number. Location of the garbage, I know the owners of the property are going to want to discuss that. We did think we had a lot merger, so we had a lot merger file that was in the record of 52616 where both lots were merged. We just learned again a few days ago that apparently that wasn't recorded, although it was approved, paid for, accepted. There's some kind of clerical error, and therefore it has expired. So we have had no time to investigate that. So obviously, if that is a lot merger, then I think this is a moot point. If not, then obviously we'll deal with moving the garbage. But all the garbage on the property is located in this garage underneath, safe and aware. The hood location, we do want to just be able to move it around to, as we said, the south of that peak. Hopefully that's okay. And I don't think I have anything else. Oh, the red brick, we actually put that in only if we were going to put the grease trap into the sidewalk and chew up that sidewalk. We said we replace it with red brick, but we don't want to have that as a stipulation of us opening our business to do that. If there's any money left over, we'll do it. But that's where we are. Those are my comments. Thank you for your time.
Okay. Any questions for the applicant? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I'd like to invite any members of the public that'd like to comment about this application. Come forward.
Thomas Hood. I don't know what I could add to that. I think I've heard a client be that well prepared to know the facts. Happens about every 15 years, I got to say. Lance is on his game here. So all I can add is just a couple of observations. When we talk about strict adherence to an ordinance, what I think we often have to do, because no two buildings, no two blocks are absolutely identical, is what is the intent behind the ordinance? And there's two that really came to mind to me. One is the idea that Cultura, Jack London's, would have, let's call it, propriety over the total number of seats. If that were the case, less scrupulous people could look at this as monopoly that you could keep from another restaurant opening. My understanding is that the seat capacity always went with the property, not with the tenant, which only makes sense. The other thing is, I used to live on Lincoln. I go to First Murphy House because of our museum there, and I observed many, many times when you would walk through Sioux Vicino, Jack London's had a lot of live music, a lot of guitars, electric guitars, and you couldn't hear the music until you're about 10, 20 feet to the west of their bar, and then you could hear the music. The idea that 300 feet from Vin is going to create a problem and restrict their hours, it just doesn't make any sense. Having lived on that street and gone to the bar and listened to music late at night, it just doesn't really apply, because it would have to go all the way down to Lincoln and then north, about 200 feet before you hit the first residence. Across from Sioux Vicino, you've got a parking lot, Christian Science, First Murphy House. It really wouldn't be a problem. It wasn't in the past with Jack London's and Cultura. So I hope you'll take those two requests into consideration. Thank you.
Thank you, Thomas. Okay, any other members of the public like to make some comments?
I'm Robert Pollard, and my wife and I own Sioux Vicino Court. Her family has owned it for about 60 years. One, we wanted to talk about the hours of operation for VIN, and we really feel that if they could be open till 10 p.m., that seems like it would make a lot more sense. With Cultura having the ability to be open till 2 a.m., and VIN is actually on Dolores, then we go to Cultura, and then Lincoln. It didn't make a lot of sense to have them being closed at 8 when they're even behind a bar and restaurant that is open till 2 a.m. With these additional with the water credits that we do own, we would transfer those to VIN so that they would have the 26 seats. On the issue on the hood, is there a way we could bring up that picture?
Absolutely.
Do you have the site picture?
Yes, just one moment.
Sorry.
The roof hood?
Yep.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Next.
Or this
How
one?
How about the one, one more down?
Yep. One more?
Yep, right there.
Sure.
Okay, so we're proposing that we put the site, which would be on the north side of the roof, it would be right where the window is. And if we put it on the south side, where that's all building, and then we stuccoed it, we feel it would blend much better in, and that anybody that's walking up and down on the street would not be able to see the hood at all. It wouldn't be obtrusive at all, but on the other side, you would be able to see it if you're walking anywhere on Dolores. So our proposal was to have the site remain on the south side. One other thing. On the issue about the trash, maybe there was a clerical error or whatever happened on there, I'm not really sure. But we do own those two APMs, and Cultura sits on both of those APMs. One, the bar is in one, and the restaurant part is in the other APM. We're not going to be selling this property or anything like that. So we, in our lease that we would give to Vin, we would allow them to put the garbage in the garage that we have that's off of Lincoln Street, where Cultura keeps their garbage. It's about a 1,200 square foot space. We do have one parking spot in there. That's where all Cultura keeps their garbage, and that's also where we have an apartment upstairs where that garbage is kept. So those kind of four issues are what I wanted to bring to the city today. Are there any questions for me?
I have a question.
Absolutely.
So if you move the chimney basically to the south side, do you need to move also the range from the north side to the south side?
Not necessarily. The range may actually be in the middle.
Okay, because right now it's on the north side, right?
It is, but that's not necessarily where the kitchen plan is.
We can't have this kind of discussion because it's not on the record. So if you want to answer a question, come on up to the mic.
Okay.
Any other questions for me?
I think we're good, but thank you. If we have any more, we'll call you back up. Thank you. Appreciate your comments. Okay, is there anyone else that would like to address the Planning Commission regarding this application? Ken, you want to come up?
I'm excited about having Robert on the council here. Be a nice addition. Congratulations. You will win.
A little lobbying up here, a little campaign.
My objection to the situation is simply that in the restaurants, we're dealing with some challenges right now. AB 413, which will remove anywhere from 300 to 400 spots downtown business district, is a very big concern. Basically, it'll destroy Carmel as a business district. We're fighting it. We've had no success fighting this at this point in time. The restaurant industry also has a bunch of challenges that are occurring around July 1st that we've been dealing with for over a couple of years now. And it looks potentially it might be, we might successfully overturn that, but at this point in time, an answer is no. Our employees are moving further and further out of town. We're concerned that we won't have any at some point in the time, in the next 4 or 5 years. There is no affordable housing. Landlords could go that route to put in some more additional, to turn their commercial spots that they can't rent to another gallery or another jewelry store. Or I understand they have problems, and it is difficult now. But for another restaurant, when we literally have more restaurants per capita than any place in the United States, it seems like we really are challenged by having more restaurants. It is a moderately seated restaurant, grant them that. I do go to their other place in the Crossroads, and I enjoy it. And I think maybe if it was that concept, I would be okay with that. But right now, with the challenges that our community has with parking, probably. And the restaurants also, a lot of them are suffering. You don't hear it, but I do hear it because I'm involved with the community all the time. So my objection is right now, maybe it's not the right concept for us, but it is a moderately seated place, but I'd rather see more residential planning for our community. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Okay, anyone else in the public would like to, in the chamber here, would like to come forward, make any comments? Anybody online, Leah?
No, sir.
Okay. All right, I'm going to close the public comments, open up to the commission for their comments. Commissioner Locke, would you like to begin?
Yes, thank you. I appreciate your comments, Ken. I know there are the challenges that are going on, especially that parking thing. It's going to be a nightmare when we lose those parking spaces, if we lose those spaces. As far as this application goes, I am in favor of the application, and I would be in favor of the hours remaining open till 10 p.m., not closing at 8. There are many restaurants in town, as was pointed out, that have 10 o'clock as their closing times. They close way before that. There are no restaurants, very few restaurants, open until 10 o'clock. So if they ended up staying open till 10, that would be, they would be in the minority. As far as special condition 32, which is the water issue, yes, you are correct that the water stays on the site and it doesn't have anything to do with restaurant seats. However, there is a change in use that occurs when you go from a retail space or retail sales, which Bennett Gallery was, to a restaurant. And that does trigger a requirement for a water permit. So you will have to get a water permit just to make sure that that's stated on there. And yes, it does look like 26 seats is what they can do, and 13 outdoor seats would not require a further permit. I would support keeping the 13 for the outdoor area based on the seating plan. If they were to go to a longer or a more narrow, maybe longer table, you could actually get 4 people at some of those tables versus 3. So I think I would just leave that up to the applicant to figure out how to do that. But other than that, like I said, I would support this project.
Commissioner Allen, your comments, please.
Yeah, I feel the same, and I think in the past what we've done is just pretty much allowed them to configure the outside space the way that that works, and so I think I would keep it at the 13, and then allow them to configure just as Commissioner Locke suggested. So I'm fine with this.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Karapetkoff?
Yeah, I'm very familiar with the courtyard. I go to Cultura quite a lot, so that area is very comfortable. I really enjoy the fire pits. Try to imagine what will happen if we add another 13 seat, and it doesn't seem to be a problem. Sometimes when you have 3 chairs to a table, the way it was displayed, that third chair is a little bit in the way. That's true. And it's kind of awkward sitting with your back to the action, right? But I'm sure they will find a more creative way of distributing the seat in the courtyard. It's a pretty big space. I have no issue with the longer opening hours. I think 10 p.m. is fine. 8 p.m. is probably too early. I couldn't understand the discussion about the grease trap that is supposed to be extended to the sidewalk. I'm not sure exactly how that works technically. Would love to know more about it. And I think that these are my comments. I think that it's a good idea. I have nothing against opening another restaurant in town. That's fine.
Thank you. Commissioner Delps.
I think I'm in agreement with my colleagues. I tend to agree that with you, Catherine, that those extra 3 seats look like it's a bit of a crunch, but I think we need to be consistent with what we've done with all of the other outdoor seating applications, which is really just say, it's based on what the water district allows, and as long as the fire chief is okay with that and you meet ADA, fine, we're okay. I'm okay with 10 p.m. Again, I appreciate you applying the letter of the law. I think the reality is that, yeah, you'll probably be done at 9. So I'm fine with that. Yes, so your point about the pavers, replacing the pavers on the sidewalk, I don't see that as a condition in here, Catherine, is it?
It's not a condition. It was included as part of the project description, but the applicant has since changed the proposal from putting the grease trap in the sidewalk to moving it into the kitchen. So redoing the sidewalk is not a necessary
Okay,
project
I just want to make
component.
sure that we
It's not required.
don't force that. I'm good.
So the pavers are not part of the authorization? Is that where they would be? If you were going to require them, is that where they would be?
They are not specified in the authorization.
Right. And they're not in the special conditions?
No.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm in agreement with my fellow commissioners. You know, and I want to say I really don't want to put limitations on any businesses. I know how hard it is to have a business, and believe me, I want to give you as much leeway as you need to do your business, as long as you're not creating any, you know, unusual impacts or whatever. And I really think the commission has no business making decisions that restrict businesses, because it's really challenging. And I understand, I'm really sympathetic to what Ken says, and it just doesn't seem like it gets any easier, you know. And there's a lot of restaurants in town, but you know, this is a nice place for one. I think it's a great use. And I appreciate staff pointing out the letter of the law, but we obviously don't have that applied consistently across the restaurant industry. So I don't think we can, you know, we can put that restriction here. So we have a resolution per staff. I think we need a few amendments to it. I think the one, I'm going to leave it up to the applicant to figure out where to put those 13 seats outside. So that would be number 10. I think what I heard from the commission is they want to modify that.
We don't have to, because it's already at 13.
It's already at 13. Was there?
It's
Was
condition
there-
number, special 11, condition 11.
Oh, 11, yeah.
11, okay.
For
Yeah,
hours.
yeah, that one we have to, I think the commission wants to go with what's requested, which would be 11:30 to 10 p.m., is that correct?
They're actually requesting 11, I believe, on Fridays and Saturdays. 11 p.m. So are you saying 10 every day?
Okay, all right. What was
11.
I'm in favor of what was requested by the applicant. Anything else there that I'm missing?
I think that's the only one.
Yeah, I'm a little, I understand the issue about the trash. The owner seems to feel that's sort of a hardship, having to make that easement. I don't know what the legal consequence or the ramifications that are for the owner. But unless somebody has some suggestions about that, I guess we can leave it as it is.
The thinking was that the property could be sold in the future, and we just don't know. And so that was the
Right, yeah, I
reasoning
understand it's two
behind
separate APNs,
Yeah.
two separate properties. So we'll just leave it as it is. If the owner wants to challenge that, they can take care of that in a legal way. It's really not under our jurisdiction. Okay, so that's what we have. So I will go ahead and make that motion that we accept, that we approve the resolution as presented by staff with the change for the hours of operation, and those will be as requested by the applicant. Anything else?
I can second that.
Okay, we have a motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Commissioner Allen?
Yes.
Commissioner Delbs?
Yes.
Commissioner Karapetkov?
Yes.
Commissioner Locke?
Yes.
Chair LePage?
Yes, motion is carried. And good luck with your new venture. Okay, that brings us to the last item. And I believe that Commissioner Delves has to recuse himself from this item. He's within 300 feet of it.
I'm afraid I'm going to miss the director's report.
You're going to miss it? Okay. See you later. Thank you. Thank you for coming. All right. See you later. Okay. So the last item, I'll wait for Commissioner Delves to leave the room. Oh, yeah, we're going to wait for staff to come back. Where'd you go?
My laptop is dying. So sorry. Thank you.
Did your battery go dead?
It's close. I don't think it'll make it through the next item.
Okay, you ready?
Yes.
Okay, this is item number 6 on the public hearings, and it is a design study, DS 24017, the Newman Project. This is consideration of a design study for demolition of 2 cottages totaling 1,195 square feet and the construction of a new 2,730 square foot 2-story residence located on Carmel Street, 3 southeast of 4th Avenue. Staff report, please.
Thank you, Chair LePage. So this next item is a concept design study for a new single-family home. The project site is a 7,000 square foot lot and is allowed a base floor area of 2,730 square feet. There are 2 cottages currently on the site. Both would be demolished, and that's about almost 1,200 square feet. The applicant is proposing to construct a new 2-story single-family dwelling. It would include a 300 square foot attached garage. So as you are familiar, the primary purpose of the concept review is to consider site planning, privacy and views, as well as mass and scale. Staff did receive a letter from the south neighbor regarding a view from the kitchen window. The applicant has been very proactive in working with the south neighbor, and we do believe that those concerns have been addressed. Unfortunately, the neighbor couldn't join us this evening, but we will double and triple check before the final details that her concerns have been adequately addressed. We have not received any correspondence from any of the other neighbors. So by way of just a little bit of background, this site was approved back in 2014 for redevelopment, and the owner at that time did not move forward with the plans, so that design study approval did expire. The new owners liked the original design, and so they've decided to pursue that design study. And it's substantially the same as what was presented in 2014. So here you see the existing site plan of, again, the 7,000 square foot lot with the 2 existing cottages. What I think is kind of interesting about this project is that they're utilizing sort of the existing layout. The driveway would stay in the current location, and they would really just kind of fill in the area between the 2 cottages for the new home. So this is the proposed site plan, which shows you the building footprint. Again, you can see the driveway access stays in the same location, which is consistent with the residential design guidelines. On the lower level, the applicant is proposing a side entry garage. And again, this would utilize the existing driveway. At this lower level, there are 2 bedrooms with a shared ensuite bath, as well as some crawl space. And then at the main level, there's a 200 square foot deck proposed above the garage. This is where all the main living spaces are proposed, including the primary bedroom as well as a second bedroom. The roof pitch is proposed at 6 and 12, which is within what the residential design guidelines recommend. The applicant is proposing 4 skylights. 2 of those would be on a street-facing roof plane, which is discouraged by the residential design guidelines. These are above the kitchen area. The home is set back considerably from the street. However, these skylights may still be visible. So any feedback from the commission on the location of these skylights is welcome. Staff is leaning towards requiring that they be relocated to the east-facing roof plane. Also, the residential design guidelines encourage minimizing the number of building roof forms. As you can see in this diagram, the applicant's proposing 3 front-facing gables, which is modest and interesting. With regard to mass and bulk, this is the streetscape diagram. The existing condition is on top, so you can see those 2 cottages in the middle. The red lines kind of represent the roof line of the adjacent homes, and so you can see how the proposed dwelling really fits into the existing site. With regards to exterior finishes, this is only concept review, but we do always ask the commission for any feedback on colors and materials. The applicant is proposing an oxidized stainless steel for the gutters and downspouts, which is a nice alternative to the copper, which we no longer allow. The roof material is proposed to be a synthetic shake, earth tones for the stucco color, stone base, and then wood windows and doors. Staff also noted that they're proposing wood railings as well as other wood detailing throughout the residence, so definitely in keeping with the residential design guidelines. These are the exterior light fixtures that are proposed. Staff will take a closer look at these before final details, but I would like to get some feedback from the commission on this lantern style fixture here. Staff has been requiring that the light element be tucked up in the hood, and that really ensures that the light is directed downward. This particular fixture is quite attractive, but you can see the light element behind this opaque panel. So any feedback on the design of that light fixture would certainly be helpful if you find this to be appropriate, or if it's not quite as shielded as it should be. The applicant has presented a preliminary landscape plan. The city forester will review the plant palette before the final details review. And with that, staff is recommending that you accept the concept design study. We do have a couple special conditions regarding required tree planting for 2 upper canopy trees, successful completion of the volume study, making sure the site coverage is within the standards. And then condition number 4 is just to ensure that the south neighbor's concerns about her view from her kitchen window has been adequately addressed. And that concludes my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for staff?
I do. Marnie, so when you say that the neighbor has concerns and we go to address them at a future date, did you have an impression, or do you perceive that it will affect the plan as shown?
So that's a good question. So the plans that were included in your packet showed a projecting bedroom window on the west elevation. That was a prior iteration of the design. The applicant met with the neighbor and actually made a modification to that window, pulling it back. And the neighbor said that sufficiently addressed the concerns that she had.
Okay.
I did include that revised drawing in my presentation, and I apologize for not identifying it when it was up on the screen. So it appears that with this modification, her concern has been addressed.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Okay, any other questions for staff? Okay. The applicant come forward, or the architect, Craig Holdren.
Good evening, Commissioners. Yes, thank you, Commissioner LePage. Thank you. You guys have had a brutal couple of days, so appreciate you sticking it out to this point. Here representing Jeff and Noel Newman. Jeff's with us tonight. I'll try to be brief. You'll probably be grateful for that. As Marnie, thank you for your terrific presentation. It is an interesting project for us. This exact project, same mass, bulk, layout, and very, very similar aesthetic, was taken all the way to entitlements 10 years ago. In fact, I believe Commissioner Locke yesterday observed she remembered giving it water 10 years ago, which never went anywhere. The basic, I think the house speaks for itself. It's a pretty straightforward design. We think it's rather nice. Sort of steps back from the street. It has that sort of a stone base that kind of emerges from the ground with the stucco kind of perched up above. It kind of works with the topography. Works very much about the trees. We have a lot of beautiful oaks on that lot. Didn't want to mess with any of those. Working with the same approach, the same drive. I do think it's worth talking a little bit more, though, about the question you had regarding the neighbor. The house, as I've mentioned and as Marty mentioned, is the same house that was approved 10 years ago. When we got that approval, there was a back and forth with that neighbor to the south, who is still the same neighbor, Linda Smith, lovely individual. And we negotiated things at that point to come up with a very particular solution. When we applied with this new piece, we actually had a small punch out on a portion of that center gable, which is on that southwest corner, which is the master bedroom. And so that stuck out another 1.5 feet. And I just completely honestly forgot that we'd actually done this back and forth way back when. And so we put it back because we thought it leavened and kind of gave some more modulation to that portion of the house. Anyway, she pointed that out. We're like, oh, you're right. We did actually agree this. So we pulled the overhang back in and we reduced that window projection. We hadn't given Marnie the most up-to-date drawings, and so Marnie was still operating under slightly out-of-date information up until more recently. So she has the current information. She also has a back and forth between ourselves and Ms. Smith saying she's looked at what we've actually given her that's been corrected and likes it. It's approved. It's consistent with what she saw before. And again, we'll have to make sure that's double and triply checked prior to the final, but I'm quite confident that what we have is exactly what she's expecting to see, and is in fact exactly what she saw 10 years ago. Yeah, that would do it for me, unless you've got particular questions or want to hear my voice some more.
Questions? Any questions for Commissioner?
Are you particularly attached to the lighting that you chose?
No, I'm always interested in pushing it, seeing what you guys will or not allow. I think honestly, my assessment is Carmel could be lit a little bit more. Sometimes stumbling around at dark, it gets rather treacherous. And so I think it's a worthwhile active discussion that should continue to be held. But no, we're not super committed to those.
And the skylights?
So those skylights. So again, the house is set way above the street, right? It steps up. There is a fair amount of topology there, and it's about 45 feet to the front of that kitchen from the property line, which is another almost 10 feet back from the actual pavement edge. So it's almost 55 feet back, and it's quite a bit up. And you've got that canopy of trees. So I think there's really very, very little interference that those would provide. And it is a relatively low plate, and it does bring light into the kitchen, which is a place where you're desirous of having good light. So we would very much like to keep those. If we flip them to the backside, away from the street, I think they would be more present to the neighbors up the hill behind. I think their current location is, I can't say it's invisible, but I think it's very, very modest just because of both the overlapping tree canopies in front and the fact that the house is set so far back from the street, and there's probably 13 feet of topo change from the street up to that first floor, that main floor, and then of course the story above that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, is there anybody from the public that would like to make any comments regarding this application? Nobody coming forward in the chamber? Anybody online?
No, sir. No one
No
online.
hands going up. Okay, I'm going to close the public comments, open it up to the commission. Commissioner Karapetkov, you want to start off, or?
I didn't see any issues with the site when we went there yesterday. I think there's sufficient space to build that house. I don't see any conflicts with the neighbors that potentially can emerge. The roof pitch is a little bit steeper than usual, 612. But again, since there's no obstruction and no impact on the neighbors because of the roof, I think that's great to have a little bit more pitch in the roof. I understand the argument about the skylights. If the house is so far to the back, that shouldn't be a problem. We saw the diagrams about mass and scale. That seems to work very well. I like the whole idea of basically filling the space between the cottages. That's really the way to do it. You basically take what you have and work with it instead of completely demolishing and starting from scratch. I think this is a great idea, and probably the reason why this project has survived for 10 years and it's still pretty much in the same shape in front of the commission. Yeah, I think the lot size is pretty big, 7,000 square feet, so we have a little bit more freedom. I really like the look and feel of the house. It feels comfortable. So yeah, I'm in support of the project.
Okay, Commissioner Locke?
10 years, 11 years, I think it's been. So anyway, beautiful house, and so lucky to have a large size lot to work with. And the fact that it's set back from the street also is helpful. And the neighbor to the south is happy, that's good. I think it's really pretty. And as far as the lighting goes, I don't think you try to push the limits, quite frankly. But so the design guidelines just refer to avoiding glare and excess lighting. Is that right? Yeah. And the picture that we saw shows that it is obscured glass. We limit and restrict the actual lumens of the light so that it shouldn't be very bright. Personally, I don't have an issue with that. I think in this case, the proposal, it's far enough back from the street, it's not going to have an impact on any of the neighbors. So that would be my opinion on it.
And Commissioner Allen?
Yeah, so I'm in favor. I think this project looks really good. And a couple things. I actually don't want the skylights. I just don't think that we should have skylights on the front facing the street. And then we looked at the guidelines around the lighting. It does say downward facing if possible, but these do look, yeah, right. Yeah, they do look like something that wouldn't cast a lot of glare, and they can be controlled with, specific bulbs and different options like that. And so I love the way that this is built between the two cottages. I think that's fantastic. I appreciate the fact that you've worked with the neighbor, and so I'm in support.
Yeah, I don't have a lot to add. I think this is another fine example of one of your homes. You always do some very nice traditional homes using a lot of the, the craftsman style, which is representative of our architectural history. And this you have a lot to work here with. Obviously, you've been working with it with a while, but I think for an architect, and particularly in this town, you don't get this much landscape to work with, and I think you've done a really nice job with it. Normally, I have more of a problem with skylights from the street, but because of the way this is set, I agree with you. I think it's far enough back, the tree canopy, you're not going to get a lot of, glare going to the street. And with regards to the lighting, I like a little variety. Sometimes the down lighting looks a little harsh. I like the soft kind of glow of these these, sort of, off-white translucent lenses. I mean, you get a really nice glow. It's not glaring. Creates a nice ambiance with the trees and everything. So I like to see that little variety in that. I think that looks good. So other than that, I think we've got a project here you can take forward to the final. We have a resolution which the conditions of concept acceptance, just the only one was the
Skylights.
Pardon?
Did you address the skylights in the, oh, okay.
Yeah, the skylights aren't called out. It's just something staff was asking for some feedback on. The item number 4 sounds like it's going to be resolved when you present the final plans. So it says, prior to the final detailed review, the applicant shall reevaluate the location of the west elevation of the primary bedroom to ensure that no more than 1/3 of the south neighbor's kitchen window is obstructed. That's something you're going to evaluate?
Yeah.
Okay, so you're going to bring that on final?
Again, I believe we would achieve that, but yes, we will.
Yeah, sound like it already been addressed. Okay.
On the skylights, I have a quick question. Is the ceiling of the kitchen vaulted or not?
It is vaulted.
It's vaulted, okay. Because skylights have a different effect. If it's not a vaulted ceiling, you have this tunnel that basically does not allow the light to go out. But if it's vaulted, yeah, you have direct access to that. Okay, thank you.
All right, so I'm going to make a motion that we accept the resolution as presented by staff.
I can second that.
Okay, any more discussion? Okay, roll call, please.
Commissioner Allen?
Yes.
Commissioner Karpetkov?
Yes.
Commissioner Locke?
Yes.
Chair LePage?
Yes. Motion is carried.
Thank you very much.
Okay, I think that concludes the public hearings. And do we have a director's report tonight?
Just a couple things to mention. We do have interviews underway for the Community Planning and Building Director. So those first interviews are occurring this week. And they will be followed up by a second interview. But it sounds like there was a good response to the job announcement, which is great. And then also just wanted to mention the City Council has appointed an ad hoc committee to evaluate the flock cameras, which are license plate reader technology. And so I just wanted to mention what came out of their last ad hoc meeting. They are going to go back to the City Council and report out. But there was discussion about having the Planning Commission review these features in the right-of-way when they're freestanding. So just wanted to mention that. Your input might be solicited for the flock camera project. And that's really all I have tonight.
Okay, thank you. I think it's another one in the can. I'm going to use that a lot. All right. Thank you, guys. Stefan, you just voted no on that last one? Did you vote no on that last one? Which one? The new one, the last slide. Yes. Why did you vote no? I voted yes. Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you said no. Yes. No. I was